Hey, Tracy.
Hey, Brian.
How are
I'm
you?
trying to get a good angle here. I've got it on a stand and it's can get me. Oh, lovely.
We can get you a telephone book. You could sit on the telephone book.
There. How's that?
Perfect.
I'll have to hold it there. I, it's on one of these stands that follows you when you're videotaping.
Too much technology. You have too
Oh,
much
I
technology.
know. It's crazy. But it's been a crazy morning, so
You said you were
par
taking
for
a
the course.
class or something, so thanks
Yeah,
for spending some time with us.
I'm actually doing a chocolate production class with Melissa Coppel, and I'm doing production at the same time. So, when you're a one-person shop, that's what you have to do, right?
That's what I hear. That's what they
So,
all say. That's what all the kids are saying these days. That
yeah,
when you when you're the head cook and bottle washer, you're responsible for everything, right?
exactly. Every
But
part
it,
of the production.
but that's the nature of your business, right? I mean, so backstory. Well, before we get into Black Butterfly, you are
Okay,
you are currently the proprietor and head cook and bottle washer at Black Butterfly Chocolates in Prescott, Arizona,
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
but you have not always done chocolate.
No, I did not come from a culinary background whatsoever. I'm originally from Canada.
I
Uh,
thought I picked up the accent, to be completely honest. I'm like, I think she's from Canada, but her bio doesn't say that,
yeah, it did. It
does it?
said it said I hailed from the Great White North.
Well, that
Yeah.
could be Montana.
No, but I put Canada in brackets.
I don't quite
Yeah.
read very well, apparently. Apparently, my
Okay.
reading skills are a little suspect.
Yeah, I'm originally from Northern Ontario, Canada, but I spent 21 years in Vancouver. So I really look at Vancouver as being home.
Right.
And I worked for the telephone company there for 16 years. And then I moved to Las Vegas, Nevada, of all places.
Of course.
And I worked for the telephone company there for another 6 years, ending my career as a circuit design engineer. And I only left it because the company went bankrupt and we lost absolutely everything, our shares, our stock, everything, 401ks. So then after that, I worked for the state of Nevada as a drive examiner for 8 years.
Which I did want to talk to you about. Like that to me, like I know we're supposed to talk about chocolate, but I feel like you've got stories that could fill like an hour just
Uh,
about that.
you know what? After getting run into shrubs, like flying over them and breaking the front axle, it was like, no, this is enough. Plus, when you take someone out on a drive in Nevada, uh, you're taking them out in their own car. And a lot of people would show up with no air conditioning in the summer, leather seats, and they wouldn't be kind enough to cover them. So you'd get in and you'd burn your butt. So yeah, it was a very, very interesting job because you had no control. Your control was all in your voice to try and calm them down. Like if you saw that they were going to fly through a stop sign, you couldn't yell stop. I have no steering wheel, no brake, no gas pedal. So it was all a matter of learning how to relax them and keep them safe at the same time, and myself safe. So
I feel better about my own driving. I feel better about my own driver's test now, which I remember much differently than that. But it's been
yeah,
35 or so years since I've been in a driving test. So,
yeah,
but
it's
so
interesting.
that career didn't stick. But at that point, you were introduced to somebody in the industry, I think, right?
Yes, a friend of mine had learned how to temper chocolate from Chef Paul at Chef Rubber.
Got it.
And So he took me down to the Chef Rubber location in Las Vegas. Was when their whole operation was there.
Right.
And he introduced me. And I've always been a great lover of cookbooks, especially coffee table cookbooks, or what you deem as coffee table cookbooks, you know, that were full of beautiful pictures. And when I got in there and saw the Jean Pierre Wybauw chocolate book, it was like, wow, this is cool.
You know what's interesting is that I think that book is a book that we all own. Like it's one of, like, that series of books, like I think there are three, you know, were really important moments for a lot of people. You know, it was for that first place that we were able to sort of like look at things on the written page.
Yeah.
You know, and really kind of try to understand. He says sort of like, if you really can understand by just reading a book about chocolate, but you know, where you had an opportunity to see where you wanted to go.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, I interrupted your story. Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so that was my very first introduction to chocolate. And while I was employed at the Department of Motor Vehicles, I started playing around with it. You know, I had done like chocolate barks when I was in Canada, but they were based on like a Martha Stewart recipe that had nothing to do with tempering. It was melt the chocolate, put it in the fridge, and let it set, and voila, you know.
Right.
So this was a whole new thing, learning how to temper and, you know, going through that process. So I started making barks and bars on the side for some of the employees and friends at the Department of Motor Vehicles, and, you know, enjoyed playing with it. But I didn't fully emerge into chocolate until I relocated to Naples, Florida. And when I went there, I had no idea what I was going to do career-wise, whether I was going to go back into the corporate world. And I started going around to the farmers markets along the Gulf Coast. And they are like farmers markets I have never seen before. Absolutely incredible, the vendors and what they bring to the market. And I thought, I really want to be a part of this, but what do I want to do? You know, and at the time I was married to a chef, and we played around the idea of doing something with artisan sea salts and, you know, stuff like that. And he said, well, you like doing chocolate, so, you know, why not do that? But I'm thinking, okay, but it's outdoors.
Thanks for that suggestion.
Yeah,
and it's Florida.
Yeah, I'm on the Gulf. Yeah, markets start early, but you can sometimes have rain, you know, and I wasn't quite sure how I was going to manage this without the chocolate melting. You know, and at the time still, I wasn't into the bonbon phase yet. I was still doing bars and barks. And so I figured it out. I got myself a Honda generator, and I packed wine coolers, and I ran the production like that. I rented a commercial kitchen space because I thought, well, if I'm going to do this, I don't want to do it from my home. Plus, I want to be able to do internet sales. I want to be able to wholesale. And the only way I could do that was if I had commercial kitchen space. So I found a caterer, and he allowed me to rent time in his kitchen. So that's what I did. So
all of which sounds very resourceful.
Yeah, it worked out great. And people loved it. Markets are an interesting thing because you're taking the product to the masses instead of waiting for the masses to come through your door. So, you know, that's the scary part about having a brick and mortar. You don't know if anyone's going to show up. But with farmers markets, everybody shows up. You just don't know whether or not they're going to buy your product. That's all. But I used to go with, I think it was about 12 different bark flavors and about 6 different bar flavors. And I wouldn't sample the bars, but I had some on display because they were Mendiant bars. So it was the artistic value. But with the barks, I would sample every single flavor I had on the menu. Right. And my belief is if I can get a taste into you, then it's pretty much a guaranteed sale. I even had the owner of Falkland come and taste my chocolate.
Nice.
Yeah, he came through when I was doing Sanibel Island Market one time. Yeah, he and his wife. Yeah.
So your generator was just hooked up to your little wine coolers?
Yeah, I also had regular coolers filled with dry weave ice packs like the pharmaceutical companies use. Right. And I would lay the barks in there, and as the wine cooler would empty, I would move them up from the regular cooler. Yeah, so it made it easy. It was set up almost like a store. The wine coolers were behind me, table in front of me, so I would just have to turn around and grab it out of the wine cooler.
But, okay, but Naples wasn't for you, for whatever reason.
Yeah, before I left there, though, like, when I figured finally that I was going to really get totally immersed in chocolate, I attended École Chocolat. So I took their course. Right. I then took a couple of courses at Norman Love's, and that was my introduction to painted bonbons. For the first time. We did a little bit in École Chocolat, yes, but to really grasp the total capacity of it, I took courses with Norman Love, and that was mind-blowing. So then when I was in Florida, I called the company Once Upon a Bean, and it really confused people. They would come up to my booth and ask me what kind of coffee I had.
Well, at least they weren't asking what kind of lentils you had.
Yeah. So, and after a while, it was starting to get a little kitschy sounding, you know. Right. So when I relocated to Arizona to be closer to family, I decided at that time that I was going to do a brick and mortar, and I decided to totally rebrand the business. Because of the fact that the name was getting kitschy, and that wasn't really the image I wanted to present. So I relocated here and found a small little spot to start and rebranded the business into Black Butterfly, because butterflies are a form of metamorphosis and rebirth, starting over. They're very spiritual. And I was starting over completely. And the black butterfly itself is extremely unique. And so I felt what I was bringing to the area was unique. There is another chocolate company here, but what they do and what I do are completely different. Right. And I specialize completely in Venezuelan chocolate. So, but that may change. You know, you never know. I just got samples in from RDC after taking Gonzo's class last week. So I want to try, because of the fact that we've been having issues long before COVID with getting the Venezuelan chocolate. You know, there's a lot of political unrest, and
that was a very polite way of putting that.
Yeah, well, and it makes it difficult, you know, and it's a shame because I've been using them. I use El Rey, and I've been using them now for almost 12 years. Right. And I love their flavor profile. A big seller for me with most of my customers is I've been able to convert several of them from being milk chocolate lovers to the dark side, because none of El Rey's darks have bitter notes because of the way they process. Right. So,
yeah, I mean, that chocolate supply issue is not just a Venezuelan problem though these days. I mean,
Right.
there's definitely a COVID. Obviously, COVID's presented a lot of challenges across the board, But I
Right.
mean, I think our end users forget that sometimes, right? That we're talking about a product that starts in other places in the world,
Right.
right? Has to be processed there, at least start processing there, and
Right.
shipped to another part of the world where it's
Yeah.
processed further, and then it has to be shipped to another part of the world for you to work with it. I mean, the El Rey advantage is that there's one less other part of the world,
Right.
right? Like the
Right.
same with Republica, there's one less other part of the world, but there's still a bunch of moving parts to make things happen.
Exactly. Yeah. And we just had some good news, though, is they're going to look at possibly starting to process the beans here in the U.S. So that will help, so long as they can get the beans.
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
Yeah. I mean, I was in Venezuela 2003, and it was a different world then, but still a lot of the same problems, right? I
Right.
mean, beans were, like in a lot of parts of the world, are brokered and move across borders based on pricing and all
Yeah.
sorts of stuff, right? And Venezuela brings a whole other host of problems about stable governments and all that stuff that
Exactly.
the poli-sci major in me would love to talk about for the next hour, but probably not
Yeah.
particularly
Well,
relevant right now.
like a while back here, they had beans stored in a separate warehouse away from the factory, and they sent a couple of guys to check on the beans, and they've never been heard from again. So, that's the kind of issues that they're dealing with,
Right,
and it's unfortunate, because it's such a beautiful country.
right. So, because my Arizona geography is lousy, you're in Prescott, which is like an hour north of Phoenix. Is that
About 90 minutes.
got it?
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people come here based on doing the Grand Canyon run,
Right.
they then come through Sedona and Jerome and Prescott. And yeah, it's a cute little town. It's a Western town,
Right.
which is rather ironic because I'm anything but Western. So it's like, okay. And it's funny, one of my dear customers gave me her collection of antique molds, and in it is a gun. And I have it on display, and of course everybody wants it. They all want me molding that, But we have the world's oldest rodeo here, and it's a beautiful setting downtown. There's a great big courthouse in the center surrounded by a park and trees, and then all of the shops on the main streets surround that, as well as pubs and whatnot. They call it Whiskey Row.
Got it.
So
So you get there, you're rebranding yourself, it sounds like, to a certain degree. You're rebranding your business, and
right,
you have to now create, you've got some barks and you have some bars, but you need to create this line of
bonbons.
bonbons or truffles or whatever word we're going to use. And
Yeah,
I mean, I know you're a regular watcher of this program, so
yeah,
one of the things that we end up talking about a lot is that innovation process. And it's one thing when we have to innovate one item or two
right,
items a quarter. It's another thing when you probably had to create 12 to 15 items sort of from the jump, right?
exactly.
So, like, what did that process look like for you? I mean, was it, this is what I'm doing, I got the building, now I better figure out the line of products, or was it a
Well,
little collaboratively?
the barks and bars were not an issue. I already had
Right.
that in place from Florida, and I've since added to that. I do approximately 40 different bark flavors, about 50 different bars, Mendiant bars. The bonbons, a lot of the flavor profiles I drew from global flavors from my time living in Vancouver, because as you know, Vancouver is very much a melting pot of cultures.
Right.
And I make what I like. When I was in Florida, I used to do things when people would ask for them, And then I found they weren't really selling. So I changed my philosophy totally to, I'm going to give you what you don't know you want. And it's worked. And I don't have a standard lineup all the time. There's probably 3 or 4 different flavors that will show up in the case on quite a regular basis, like a peanut butter with a cayenne finish, our fleur de sel caramel, a palais d'or, and probably the dulce shows up a fair bit. But otherwise, the flavors change on a whim. Whether it be on a whim or with the seasons or with the holidays. That's a lot of times with the holidays, I'll introduce new flavors for different collections. And I think that's what's kept people coming back to me, because I just personally know that if you've got the same flavors in the case day in and day out, I'm not going to visit as often. But if they're changing all the time, I'm going to come back to see what's different.
Yeah, I mean, that is a different philosophy, right? I mean, I think that something that there's the opposite school of thought on that too, right?
Well, exactly.
And I'm not picking sides in that fight. I mean, I think that, I had a good friend who had a business outside of Syracuse here in New York, and that was kind of their philosophy as well, that they were constantly trying to put new things in the box because their customers wanted to see new things in the box, right? They didn't want to be, they didn't need to be lint, for lack of a better term, right? I mean, to pick on the big boy, right? I mean, you walk into a lint shop and it's going to have the same items, no matter whether that store is here in Niagara Falls or in Miami, right? They're going to have the same products all the time.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I think for me, because it's such a tourist town as well, and people are constantly traveling through, and then we're getting a large influx of people from California moving in, and they expect different standards, and they're looking for something out of the ordinary. I think if it were just a matter of small town and having to just please the locals all the time and nobody else, maybe my philosophy would be somewhat different. But at the same time, I get bored with things and I want to try new things.
Got it. So I'll phrase this question a little differently than how I normally ask it to people. What's something that something that you've kind of done that surprised you how well it did, and then what's something that you've done that surprised you how it did not come out the way you wanted it all and you weren't happy with? So it's a two-part question. You can answer whichever part you want first.
Well, I did one that I absolutely loved that I wanted to try, and it was based on the flavor profiles of the Middle East. And I had always wanted to use ras el hanout. So I made a ras el hanout ganache on top of it was actually a ras el hanout apricot ganache on top of a cashew douya. But the cashew douya I did with date sugar, so that I had all of the flavors of the Middle East. So I had date, I had the apricot, I had the ras el hanout, and I had the cashews. And it did very well. People absolutely loved it. I had a lot of customers in that had heard of the spice and had been wanting to try it. And then I had others that knew nothing about it, but still wanted to try it. The one that I made that I thought would go over, and maybe it was just the recipe and maybe I need to tweak it more, but I did a mojito. Did not work out. It could have been not just the recipe, maybe the design, because you never know with the design either. Some designs are more appealing to others, and you know. So I may try it again, but I'm not a real fan of mojito anyways, and I'm not a drinker, so that makes it hard, even though I use alcohol in a number of the different products that I do. But it makes it tough when you don't have someone that is maybe used to drinking that can give you honest feedback about it. But I didn't like it.
Yeah, I don't do passion fruit because I'm allergic to passion fruit. So anyway,
Oh,
like
really?
so I don't use passion fruit, and it's one of those flavors that I think people expect. Is that fair? Like it's sort of one of those flavors that is everywhere these days, and I don't use it anywhere just
Oh,
because
I
it's
use it
that
a lot.
right. And so I can probably write you a passion fruit recipe, but I'm not going to taste it and I'm not going to put it in perspective to something else, right? And I can give you suggestions about how to use sour, but it's that same kind of conversation, right? Until you're kind of in it and with it, I think
Right.
we don't get what we want out of a recipe unless we're able to sort of like internalize that recipe. And
Right.
I'm not going to
Well,
internalize passion fruit recipe because it's a trip to the emergency room.
that's sad. And see, that's what I do is I will make things according to my palate
Right.
and what I like. And I like tart. I'm not a sweets person, believe it or not. And that's why it's so ironic that I'm in a sweet industry because I prefer savory and salt. So I started pairing a lot of different salts, artesian salts like Merlot infused sea salt or an espresso infused sea salt. So, I started doing that and then a lot of different spices. And I didn't know how they would go over because it was funny, one of my first customers, the very first year I was open here, her 4-year-old little boy, his favorite bonbon in the case at the time was rosemary lemon. And I thought, wow, have you ever got a sophisticated palate for your age? You
Right.
know, but so people have come to know me for different things like that, and they find it intriguing, you know.
What flavors are you working on right now?
Right now, I am going to try my hand at one of, inspired by Francisco Mioga, the donut infused bonbon. I want to try and do something to that effect for Father's Day, because and also his popcorn infused, doing something with that because I want to do 2 different collections for Father's Day, one based on my dad, one based on my stepfather. My dad was a beer drinker, so I'm going to do a traditional ale paired with his favorite treat, which was popcorn. And then my stepfather was a real sweets person, so I want to do a play on coffee and donuts. So
We were we were working on something last week. We were doing some panning, and we usually get Cocoa Puffs
right.
or peanut butter cereal, and we're ordering online because we're still ordering online, and they had a Snickerdoodle cereal. So we ordered a bunch of Snickerdoodle cereal, and they all came in, and they were big and flat, and they
Oh
weren't going to
wow.
pan well. So because this is how I roll. I had a bowl of Snickerdoodle cereal at 2 o'clock in the afternoon,
Right.
and they were completely horrible, for you, and completely sugared cereal, just like eating a bowl of Cocoa
Right.
Puffs.
Right.
But I loved them, and they were awesome. But the best part of the Cocoa Puff or the Snickerdoodle cereal was the Snickerdoodle cereal milk, right? And we were
So milk
and
cereal bonbon.
so what we were thinking about was like infused cream with the Snickerdoodle cereal. We just haven't gotten to it
Exactly.
yet, and then do something with the Snickerdoodle
Yeah.
cereal. So it's like Snickerdoodle like flavored something. I don't know yet.
Uh,
We haven't figured it out. We're still playing with it. We got like 6 boxes of the Snickerdoodle cereal. We'll figure something out.
I'll have to
But
look for that in the store.
it was
That's
Wegmans brand Snickerdoodle cereal, so it was our local grocery
yeah.
chain.
We
But
don't have
it might
Wegmans.
be in a Publix.
We don't have Publix soda.
I don't know what's there. I was trying to guess.
That's an East Coast. We have Fry's.
Got it.
Safeway.
It might be in a Safeway. Safeway might have their own snickerdoodle cereal. But anyway, but I think, but that brings up an interesting point where we're talking about innovation, and I get asked that question, and I sort of ask it to you, like, where does innovation come from? And I think it's got to come from all around us.
Oh yeah.
Right. It doesn't have to be a flavor that is in confection. Like that trip to Venezuela in 2003, I had dinner one night that was chicken with strawberry risotto. Right. And so If you take the chicken out of that conversation, that chicken risotto or that strawberry risotto became a recipe that I wrote for the company that I was working at the time. And I think it sounds like you do of that too, that we pick and choose places where we want to come up with flavor, to create something different and new.
Yeah. Well, that's like at Easter, a fond memory growing up was having hot cross buns. So it just made sense to make a hot cross bun bonbon for our Easter collection,
right?
Because I love those flavors.
So is everything in the case molded right now? I mean, on the bonbon side?
Yes, at the moment. Yeah, I do some hand dipping. I absolutely dread it, but I haven't got the room or the funds at the moment to upgrade to an enrober. First off, the upgrade is going to have to be a standalone tempering machine before I even think about an enrober. But my kitchen is quickly running out of space. Yeah. All the walls are filled. And now I just upgraded the compressor and the air gun, and it has a fan spray, and I ended up having to get a small spray booth because the cocoa butter film was getting on my packaging in the front of the store and ruining it, and it's just not good, because I don't have the kitchen closed off because it's just me. I have one tall wall and then I have a pony wall, so I can actually see people enter the store as well. And of course I have a buzzer type thing that rings when they walk in when it works. But yeah, it makes it hard,
So what's your favorite? What's the best part? Is the best part the production, or is the best part the customer?
I love it all. I do, but it gets frustrating when I'm doing production and someone walks in. But when they walk in, I try, and I've always done this, even in my past life, to remember the names of the regulars that come in all the time and greet them by name, and it makes them feel more at home and like they're a part of my business, a part of the family, so to speak. And, I think some people come in just to talk, and say hi, and, so many of them as of late, have come in and, I'm so glad to see that you're still here, and, which is nice. And I was fortunate. I didn't have to close during COVID because I was classed as food production.
Right.
So I was basically an essential service, but nobody was really around. So, when they started coming out again, as soon as someone would walk in, I'd be talking their ear off because I'd been alone for so long, and it was like, oh, here, let me chat, forever. But yeah, I love the people. The people here, this little town, it's only about 50,000 people. And then in the surrounding areas that make up the Quad Cities, total population, I guess, would be 100,000. including Prescott proper. And it's the only place I've ever lived where I'm by myself. I don't know anybody. Don't have any friends here because I don't get out of the shop, enough because I'm always here. But I don't feel alone because it's such an embracing little community. And people actually walk down the street and say hello to you. Go figure.
Well,
I've always lived in big cities and no one talks to you.
Well, you do have the advantage that you're the chocolate lady, which, never hurts, right? I mean,
yeah.
I found that to be true. Oh, that's the chocolate. That's, I'm two things in my life, by the way. I'm Olive's dad, right?
Right.
Which is a whole other story. And then I'm, most people, oh, that's that guy that does chocolate, right?
Right.
Like in those circles. That's Brian that does chocolate. That's all that matters, right?
Yeah. But it's been nice because now, like a lot of the regulars, when they have people visiting them, I've become a destination for them, which is kind of cool, But it's taken, we'll be celebrating our 4-year anniversary on the 14th of June. And I always joke with my mom and say, it's only taken me 4 years in a pandemic for people to find me, because it's funny. The tourists have no problem finding me because they're on their gadgets all the time, looking for buzzwords like artisan and whatnot. So they find me, but it's getting the word out to the locals. It's very, very difficult because a lot of the locals don't come downtown either because it's really geared towards tourism, unless you're coming down for dinner or going for a drink, but or if you come down for like one of the events like the lighting of the courthouse or we have a thing here every year called Acro Night. And it's a program to raise money for musical scholarships for kids and to also purchase instruments. And what happens is any business that wants to participate pays a fee and that money goes towards the scholarships. And then they can also host a musician. And the musician gives of their time free. And any tips they make, that also goes towards scholarships. So it attracts about 4,000 people. And it's only one evening for about 3 hours. And you just go from business to business listening to music. And so I usually host a musician, jazz musician, because that's all I play in the store is soft jazz. And because that's the atmosphere we want to create. And then I usually sample one of the barks at the time, and most of my customers have taken it upon themselves to do their Christmas shopping then because it's a few weeks before Christmas. So we usually do really well then. But it's things like that, and even with the lighting of the courthouse, they get the high school chamber choir and they tell the story of Jesus's birth through music, and then they light all 4 sides of the courthouse, and that attracts about 4,000 people as well. It's amazing how many people get bussed in.
Got it. So what's next for Black Butterfly? I mean, it sounds like,
Well, next is getting a website going. The first 4 years has been really concentrating on the store. Plus I wholesale. I have a real sweet deal in that my chocolate, my chocolate distributor is located in Texas, and I buy from them, and then I turn around and produce Mendiant bars and wholesale back to them. So that's a nice gig to have. And through that, it looks as though I'm going to obtain another wholesale account in Austin, Texas as well. Mm-hmm. And then we have a big account here for a title company. And so, that's going well. But The internet part, we've not done yet. I did it initially in Florida, but I focused so much on it, and we weren't getting a lot of traffic driven to it because I was only doing the markets at that time, and I was so tied up with it, I didn't have time to really focus on the internet as much to really get it going. So I didn't want to make the same mistake here. I really wanted, because I was rebranding in a brand new state and having to create a whole new clientele, I really wanted to focus on the store before I started focusing on the internet. And now the thing that frightens me is it going to be way too much for me to handle, until I get more staff in. But I can't justify getting more staff in if I can't, really have a good, decent profit from the store that can support the business and myself.
Right.
Because I don't have a significant other to help with that.
Yeah, I mean, that's always the question, right? That's not just a Chocolatier question, right? That as we grow,
right?
But my stepfather was a veterinarian, and that was the same type of question he always asked. It's like, great, I'm busy, but to get busier, I need another person. But to need another person, I need to do a lot more, right? I mean, it's a difficult question, I think, for all businesses that's sole proprietorship, about when you grow and how you grow, and to do it effectively and efficiently.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, and and trying to streamline production. That's why I'm in Melissa's class now, just to try and see if there's any tips that she can provide that will help me streamline production a little better. Because, like at Valentine's Day, we sold out completely, and I had to close for 5 days after just to replace all of the stock, because it wasn't just the case. It was everything on my shelves, on my counters, there wasn't a stitch of chocolate left in the store. And pretty much the same thing after Mother's Day. I had 4 individual bonbons, not bonbon flavors, 4 individual bonbons left in the case.
Yeah, I mean, I think the consultant in me, right, says the easier answer to that is always, finding a way to integrate freezing into a process, right? So that there's always there's the ability to have backstock, right? So we all know that making chocolate, whether I make one mold, if I make one mold or I make 6 molds, the time is about the same.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, whatever the limiting factor is, right? Whether it's the tempering of the chocolate or whatever, more doesn't necessarily mean more time.
Yeah.
But if we don't have the sales to support it, then it's a different issue.
Yeah.
Right.
And I have done freezing in the past successfully, and they've come out shiny and nice texture and everything. And I probably should have been doing that during the COVID year. However, because there wasn't a lot of money coming in, I, couldn't justify ordering product in order to produce. And I wasn't producing a lot for the case at the time because I didn't want a lot of waste.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I have another good friend in the industry who somebody that I trust, and I've watched them grow their business, and I asked him a question that I'd ask around here, like, what's the most important thing that you've done in the last 5 years? And he said to me, Brian, the most important thing I did was about a line of credit, right? And because he has 4 guys working for him, and he's got a retail store, and there's 2 people there, and he's like, if I was able to eliminate overtime in the months of November and December and the month of February by paying people to produce in June, right, and then putting them in the freezer that I already have, I fundamentally changed my business, right? So, yeah, I'm paying 4% on money, but I'm not paying $22 an hour. I'm paying $15 an hour to make chocolate in June as opposed to December, and I'm not burning my employees out, and they work year round and they're happier.
Right.
And I think those are the things that become, as we grow, right? Those are things that I think that the passionate people we are about food we don't look at that, right? Like that's
Right.
not where we would think, oh, we can save money by producing in July,
Yeah.
right? We can
Yeah.
prevent the heartache of December, but we don't think about the savings. And I think those are things that where you said you're taking a business class with Melissa, right? I mean, those are the things that become really important as we try to grow our businesses and we try to grow our footprint, right?
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. And I've had part-time workers, but now trying to get someone, people are making too much on unemployment. They don't want to work. And anyone that walks through the door looking for a job, as soon as you ask what their availability is, well, they're not available weekends. They can only work this day or that day. And it's like, seriously? Like, good luck getting a job in retail if you're not available on Saturday. And that's when I really need you,
right.
So it's been a struggle. The last gal I had left me high and dry at the beginning of December, right in the midst of Christmas production. And it turned out she was really here only to pick my brain because she wants to open up her own chocolate shop. So it's like, okay, lesson learned, be careful who you're hiring.
So you've thrown around some names of some people you've worked with, you've taken classes with, and who are some of those people that you, I don't know, aspire to be? Sounds kind of hokey, but like, who are some people that you look at in the industry that are doing some stuff that you think is really cool or awesome, or their flavors are great right now, whatever?
Well, Melissa for one, and then Luis Amado. Love his work. The creativity and the artistic flair, but I'm also very aware that a lot of what is being done is not practical for production. If you're going to do a specialized collection, a couple times a year or whatever, then great. But for production value, it's just not possible. You just can't take the time to do all that taping and, stenciling and everything. As pretty as it is, it's just not feasible when you're trying to keep up.
I can find myself in that place every once in a while around here. I mean, obviously we don't have to produce to generate income, right? Or, we can spend half a day on 4 items, and I think that's something that I have to keep in mind as I'm trying to help people use equipment or whatever it is, that, it's really about output. At the end of the day, I said before, the reality of it is 4 molds and 1 mold should be the same amount of time. Right.
Well, I'm learning that very quickly as well. As much as I love all kinds of different shapes, and my mother has a weakness for them, she keeps buying me like one of, which is not practical for production. But I'm finding not just production wise, it makes more sense to have only a few different easy shapes that are easy to wash, easy to polish, easy to paint, easy to shell with no air bubbles and all of that. That packaging wise, it makes more sense as well. And I'm revamping my custom packaging right now. And it's, a big eye opener as to what's going to fit and what's not, and what I can no longer use in the way of molds.
Yeah, I think there's a reason that there are a number of chocolatiers in America that use Chocolate World -2022 only, right? Or similar, like whatever that number, whatever it is. I mean, there's a couple molds that, I go back to as well.
And it's 2595. Is that the dome?
Is it the tall dome? Is that the tall chocolate world dome? Yeah, probably.
$25.95. I've
That's another
got
one.
quite a number of those and quite a number of 2022. And they're the easiest to really knock out production.
Right. And I think that, those are places where we sometimes may have to temper that artisan desire, right? To like always have something different and always have something, I think you're solving some of that problem by, you're evolving your flavors all the time, and that's cool. But if I don't have to evolve the packaging at the same time,
Exactly.
so
Yeah, because packaging's not cheap.
no, it's not. And there's, when you start to customize, you got to order a lot of it. And so it doesn't benefit you have 5,000 on the shelf if you're going to turn around and change it tomorrow. Right. And so somebody has to repeat those numbers. I said 2022 and Tracy said 2295. I think.
25.95, I think it is.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's the dome anyways.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them, but picking a size and liking it and picking a weight that then you can standardize for cost reasons. Like, it's always going to be this much chocolate, and that you can, the flavor is going to change it. So, hey, Trace, we're running out of time, and you got to get back to class.
That went quick. I've got to open the store.
Got it. And open the store. It's posh. It's only Friday. Whatever. It's only a holiday weekend.
Opening 2 hours later than normal all week because of the class. Thank goodness the class is recorded, because I'm also doing production as well as the class, so I'm multitasking big time.
Sleep is underrated or overrated. Sleep is highly overrated. So, Tracy, so thank you. You are a regular watcher and commenter about our program. So thank you for joining us. I hope it was everything you'd hoped for and more. We talked about website that you're working on that, but Black Butterfly Chocolates on Facebook and Instagram.
Yes.
And next time you're in Prescott, I'm saying it Prescott now. I figured it out.
Yes.
It's not Prescott.
Exactly. If you're a local, it's Prescott.
Next time you're in Prescott, Arizona, stop by. But Tracy doesn't open until like 11.
No, 10.
10.
10, when I'm not in class.
or talking to me.
Or when I need production. I'm open Tuesday through Saturday, 10 to 5. Yeah,
there you go.
I'm closed Sundays. Sometimes I'll do little classes on Sundays. Mondays, I'm usually here doing production. Yeah, and I do production every single day, all day long. Yeah.
There you go.
You have to, you got to multitask.
All right. Well, thanks a bunch, Tracy.
Oh, you're not going to ask me about chocolate bars, Brian?
I did. You know what? Thanks. That's the first time I've done that. I was worried about talking about Prescott. Okay, so you're at the movies.
Can I be in Canada for this one?
You can definitely be in Canada.
Okay.
You're at the cinema. You're in line at the concession stand at your local cinema.
Mm-hmm.
I know my Canadians. And you get a popcorn and a regularly sized beverage because it's Canada and they don't make you drink a 42-ounce Coke.
Exactly.
See?
Yeah.
My wife's family. We're up there a lot. You get one confection out of the case. What confection is it?
Well, see, normally I wouldn't
Smarties.
get... No.
Coffee Crisp.
No, we used to... Exactly. How did you know?
Because that's it. Those are the two. It's either Smarties or Coffee Crisps.
Yeah. And you know what? As kids, we always went down to the States to get M&Ms, peanut M&Ms. Because our Smarties were similar to the chocolate M&Ms.
Right.
But no, I was never that candy coating on the chocolate. I wanted the peanut M&Ms. But I'm a savory person, so my first go would be popcorn.
Got it. And then the Coffee Crisp.
And then the coffee, yeah.
Tracy, this has been great. Thanks a bunch, and get to work.
Oh yeah, I will. Thanks.
We'll see everybody. We'll see everybody later. Thanks, Trace.
All right, bye, Brian.
Bye now.